All right. Hey guys. So we're back again to do a little bit more chatting on the couch today about more motorcycle related stuff. Really enjoyed our little conversation that we had last week, so we thought we would do some more. So today we're going to be talking mostly about jackets and the types of jackets that we wear when we ride, what we like about them, what we don't like about them. We'll talk about some of the specific brands that we have, some of the other brands that I know I've tried. I think you've tried some other stuff as well over the years. Mm-hmm. So today is going to be all about jackets. We'll also get into a little bit some of Nate's patches here on his cutoff, which are really, really cool. So we'll talk a little bit about that, and that's kind of the big plan for today's chat.
Yeah, we were talking before we fired up the camera. We were like, what should we talk about today? And there's so many different things, and we suddenly realised that we were like, let's just talk about jackets, that'll be a nice short episode. And then you realise that there is so many different aspects. It's like this leads on to that leads on to this. So you talk about jackets, and that talks about different fabrics and stuff. Then that leads on to cut-offs, which some of us wear. And then that leads on to like patches, and that leads on to club patches. And it's like, oh my God. So we thought we'd pick like 2 or 3 basic topics. And we can always come back and expand on them, can't we, at a later date? Because I feel like we can talk about the cut-off, but that's an hour's show in itself, talking about cut-offs in the bike world. We can talk about it a bit today and have a bit of a taste.
Yeah, and see what you guys are interested in for any of those of you who are watching this.
Yeah.
There's other stuff that we kind of touch on here that's interesting, or you have some thoughts about, let us know, because then we can maybe chat about it some more, and that would be awesome. We'd really like to do that.
Yeah, if anything at all stands out, we'd love to sort of expand on it for sure.
Yeah.
And we can do just talking about 1 or 2 things if that seems interesting. We'll cover a few different things. That should be kind of fun, I think.
So, this is your jacket. You want to talk a little bit about the coat itself?
Yeah, so this is my jacket. This is my daily jacket that I wear absolutely every time we go out on the bikes, with the exclusion of going to the shops or something, which I generally just do in a hoodie or a t-shirt or something, 'cause it's 2 minutes away. So this is it as it looks. It's extremely heavy. The older I get, the heavier it gets. But we'll talk about the jacket. So this is 2 pieces. Basically, you've got the jacket underneath, which I change every few years. And then you have my cut-off, or vest as they're known, depending what country you're in, underneath, over the top. So let's take the vest off for now. We'll come back to that in a bit. Throw him over the back there.
Ta-da!
So this is a pretty standard leather jacket. I buy all of my leathers second-hand off eBay, and I only really care about, the main thing I care about is thickness of the leather. I want a good thick leather. And I want a decent zip, because that's one thing that always goes on them, is the zip. This one's a few years old. It's got a fair bit of mileage on it, and it is a Frank Thomas. I think it's probably from like the 80s or 90s.
Yeah, a lot of them from eBay that you and I both wear are from like the late 80s.
Yeah.
And have been generally in a closet somewhere for 20 years, and someone's having to clear out and realizes they don't need their old motorcycle jacket that they never ride anymore.
Yeah, exactly that. And you can get things at like 80% discount. If you go and buy a brand new bike jacket, you're probably going to pay for something decent, a couple £100. I'm that out of touch.
Easy.
I don't really know.
Easy, yeah. And I even find, this is really going to date myself, that when you look at the stuff in the shops, there is even some stuff that just doesn't have the same quality level, no matter how much money you want to pay for it. It's thinner, it's probably better leather or something, but when it comes to warmth and versatility and some of those types of things, you can't really find a lot of the same gear. I prefer the older jackets to the newer style from a functionality standpoint, I think.
Yeah, there's a lot of different styles and stuff, and like you say, a lot of the stuff these days is just It's real junk. It just is crap.
And it's so, like, it's very niche.
Yeah.
Like, you'll get the jacket that's made for the person who's riding in, 25 degrees on a track. And that jacket is perfect for that. And that's awesome. If that's what you do, then you just need that type of jacket, then you're golden. But looking for kind of like an all-purpose, can be warmer, can be cooler. You can, like his coat and mine as well have multiple zip settings on it. Like there's actually multiple zippers. So one day you're wearing a hoodie and lots of under layers, you use the bigger zip. One day it's warmer, you're wearing a t-shirt, you can use the tighter zip. Like it's been hard for me personally to find a jacket that represents that kind of versatility when you go to the store.
Yeah, I mean, going way back when I started, that was kind of the thing that I experienced, was all jackets had a bit of flexibility built in. That was kind of a huge one. I mean, one of the design differences I notice a lot of the time when we're looking at jackets these days is the collars are kind of shitty. This one, I got this one because this is a high neck. So I've just buttoned that up, and that fits like a vicar's collar when it's on. And that's really vital because we find, holy shit, we were on one tour a couple of years ago, and we were getting about 5 or 6 wasp stings a week because they go down your shirt. They for some reason, if you've got your collar open or you've got one of those shitty collars, the old style ones that just don't do up at all, and it ends where the zip ends and it doesn't go high enough, then you just end up with a chest full of wasps.
Yeah, and they get in there and you'll see us riding along and then all of a sudden start beating on ourselves because that's the only way. It's once they get in there.
Yeah.
You're not stopping, pulling over, unzipping and getting out.
No.
You've got to just smash
They will sting and sting and sting.
They're mad once they get in there.
Only thought at that moment is kill it.
Yeah.
Kill it as fast as you can.
Yeah.
And then worry about everything else. But obviously I don't recommend that to someone who's been riding for a couple of days. But when you experienced, you can carry on riding quite safely and like pound the shit out of your jacket as much as you can.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been stung. It got to the point where we got so used to it. I've taken a few stings, and I've known, particularly when they go up your sleeve.
That's the other place they go and that's another thing about these coats that have the
they do
sleeve zippers.
So these have zips on the sleeves, and it allows me to close off the sleeve. Often for winter, because you'll shut that. The sleeve is now as narrow as it can be, and then your winter glove will go over the top, and the wind, because of how that's arranged, the wind can't go up your sleeve. But in the summer, it's one of those, some of this stuff is like, how much discomfort am I going to put up with from the heat to avoid the possibility of a fucking wasp sting?
Yeah.
And I've had a few arm stings now, and I've flattened it. I've felt it flatten on my arm. I've just carried on riding because
what are you going to
do? Pull over and bitch and moan about it? That doesn't help.
Yeah. That's also an interesting thing you might want to show when we're talking about I'm out of shot now. Hi guys. When we're talking about our jackets, we like to make our stuff live for as long as possible. That's another reason why these coats are.
These are quite worn in, and that's kind of cool.
And you can even see here, so Nate's zipper was overreaching. It was coming out of its zip. So this little bit here, the little toggle, was coming undone because the leather has expanded. So what we've done is just taken another bit of leather and glued it with some pretty serious hot glue, not the craft hot glue that you get, but you can get like super sticky industrial hot glue, and just glued a tab on the bottom here, which stops this zipper from actually being able to like come straight off. So if you're not too fussed about things not looking perfect or doing some little DIY, you can really get a lot more life out of this, because there's nothing wrong with the zipper. Now that it's in there, it works. It undoes and does back up just fine. So there was no reason to get rid of this whole coat and get a new coat, just because of that one.
No, there really
thing.
wasn't. And the other thing is that if you're buying used bike gear off eBay or something and you can't try it on, because there's probably not a lot in your area, the fitment of the jacket, so inside here it's got the usual sizing. This is a UK 44 or a European 54. That means precisely nothing.
Yeah.
And you've really got to try on a bunch of different stuff, because that's basically a chest measurement. And what you'll find is they don't take into account sleeve length. So you can end up with the same chest size and the sleeve be off the end of your arm or up to your fucking elbow, or jacket length, which is something we'll probably come on to in a bit when we talk about Leigh's jacket, is that a lot of jackets aren't long enough. So when you sit down on your bike, your back is exposed because they're just too short. And when you stand up, it should look a bit too long, really.
Yeah, it also depends on what kind of motorcycle you ride, how the length, I felt, it really impacts it. If you're on a bike where you really are reaching, just the position of how you are on your motorcycle, like if you have apes or something.
Yeah, if you've got massive ape hammers.
Or if you're even on a sports bike, you're going to be basically like laying on the tank, and your back body is going to be stretched out basically as much as you can. If you think about putting a t-shirt on and then putting your hands up over your head, your t-shirt's going to rise up. The same thing happens with jackets. So if you got one that when you're just standing around is perfect and looks great on you, when you then go get on your bike, you're gonna have, like, you know, a tramp stamp gap.
Yeah. If you've got a tramp stamp and you really like to show it off,
get a short jacket.
Get a jacket that looks like when you stand
a
up.
little chilly, like, lower back permanently.
Yeah. My tramp stamp's not great, so I like to keep that covered up.
We all are happy that
I love
you keep
Tina.
that covered.
It's no good. Yeah, so that's my jacket. There's not a lot to it. It is an old school bike jacket. That's the fitment that I like. Everybody has a different preference. The other thing you get is more vents, more or less pockets and stuff like that. And while we're talking about mods and shit, this is something that Leigh did for me. We do loads of touring, and one of the things we have to do is produce documents. Either not very often when we get pulled over, but more than likely when we're getting on and off ferries and things. You need your passport, you've printed out ferry ticket, and some other shit. Sometimes they want to see your bike details and documents.
And what I found for any of the other ones of you out there who are like me, who are a bit paranoid about technology, like, there are definitely things that when we're going, we'll go for 3-4 weeks across Europe. And of course, we have our phone chargers with us, we have battery packs, we have all of that stuff.
Yeah, we're geared up.
We're geared up for that, and 9 times out of 10, that works great. We've got a list of where we're headed and can use the sat nav, and we're all good. But I'm also someone who doesn't trust that, and it has failed us on a couple of times.
Yeah, I think it's always worth having a hard
So
copy
I always,
backup.
I print our itinerary. I'll print any, like, really crucial documents, like, say we have to have filled in a certain form to stay at a certain campsite, and we did it online, but
Yeah, all of a sudden the bastard server's down, or your signal's shit.
and now you're in
mobile's
Luxembourg
flat.
and you can't really speak the language properly, and it has saved my skin on 2 or 3 occasions that we have that piece of paper
And I also
to back
think
us up.
it's a hell of a lot more convenient for me. I mean, younger people will
We're
probably
gonna date
say
ourselves now.
we're going to look like a couple of old ass fuckers, but I think when I get to when I put in my pocket everything that I need, that I know I need to get through the passport check-in for the tunnel or the ferry, and I just have that all in there, and I grab the whole lot with my fist and shove it in the guy's face, and it's finished.
Right.
There's nothing worse than you sitting there behind some arsehole who's got it on their email on their smartphone, and 15 minutes later they're still squinting and doing this because they've deleted.
Not to mention, again, we kind of talked about this last time, having to deglove, having to get your phone out, having to unlock it, then finding everything. It's just, when you're on a bike and you're already dealing with bikes in neutral, brake is on, let's make sure we've got all of our shit situated. Just being able to hand over documents, if there's a language barrier, if there's your phone all of a sudden doesn't get signal, or now, you know, we're going into this Brexit time where I don't even know if we're gonna get signal. It's gonna be like $1 million to get data. I just always have like, we're hosed. So this mod is gonna come into extra handy.
We are going somewhere. We've been
this.
rambling a bit there, but yeah, this is something that Leigh did. I was struggling with that shit for years, and I would have it in my tank bag. I would have it in somewhere about my bike. Usually the tank bag is the thing that goes on the fuel tank, and usually have it in there and have to rake it out, and sometimes I'd rip it in half doing so, and much to the amusement of the passport
wet
person.
Even it's just a mess. Whatever,
it's bad. Or you put it in your jacket pocket like this, and you've got to pull it out. And I have many times handed them a ball of scrunched up bullshit and gone, yeah, that's kind of what you're dealing with me. But then Leigh put one of these in her jacket, and it is a map pocket. Or what would you call it? A document pocket?
Yeah, document pocket. Just a fucking big pocket.
Yeah, just a huge
I think that's
pocket.
One of the things
You've got two.
I've got several, yeah.
The fuck? I've only got one.
You only wanted one.
I want two now.
Right, see? They're good. The inside, so my coat is very similar to his. It's an old school, what is mine? Skin tan?
Who the hell are they?
No idea
They're
who
probably
the hell they are.
huge. I don't even
Skin
know.
tan, extra, extra large. This doesn't even have a number on it. This is a man's jacket, and we'll talk about that a little bit later if we have time to get into it. And it's very, very similar to Nate's. You can see it's got a lot of the similar fashioning on it with the sleeves. It's got very similar extended back on it. And all this jacket has in the way of pockets are two tiny front pockets. You can see I couldn't even get my whole hand in them, as well as one internal pocket that comes with the coat, which is a decent size, but it's one pocket. Other than that,
passport down there.
you've got nothing. You've got no
and all this
pockets
space
and all this space. So I wanted more variety in where I could keep things, because your coat when you're on tour particularly is kind of like an extension of yourself for me. So I don't carry a purse. No. I don't carry...
we live in these jackets.
So
wake up, jacket on, and it's on all day. All your stuff is in all the pockets.
And for me, everything kind of has an assigned place, and that's where I know where everything is. I know my money goes in the same pocket every time. My earplugs go in the same pocket every time. So it kind of works faster that way. And I didn't have enough pockets, and particularly we didn't have enough pockets for things like documents, like we were talking about. So I've sewn in, and this kind of goes along with the sleeve mod I was showing you. I've just sewn in some pockets.
Yeah.
And these are just some squares of fabric that I got and sewed into the lining. They're not sewn into the coat itself, obviously, because going through this kind of thick leather is near as damn it impossible. Very, very hard, especially if you don't have a leather sewing machine.
And you can create leaks as well. This is one of the reasons we have patches on vests. Because if you cover your jacket in patches and go out in the rain, you get piss wet through. They really sponge it up. So
these are just sewn into the lining, and they're really big. You can even see right now, this is very appropriate for the time, in one of these pockets here.
Yeah.
I've got my hand gel, and I've got my mask. So.
Oh, found my charger.
Hey!
Lost that months ago.
So these are really good for bigger items and things that you've got a mask in yours as well.
Yeah, I've got my mask, yeah.
But definitely when we're going on tour, these kind of really big pockets here, you can print and fold over your documents just once and have basically a whole sheet of paper. It doesn't get...
And your gloved hand will go in
your
there.
Your gloved hand will get it. You can pull it. You can see how much space there is in here for me to be fishing around. So even a gloved hand will be able to go in and get it and pull it out and make that work. So that's been, I think, a huge upgrade when it comes to, again, long trips, and just the style of like, this jacket is your essentials. This jacket never leaves my side when I'm on a trip.
No.
It's with me in the tent. I'm walking around in it. If we go in for a meal, the coat's coming with me. So if someone stole my bike, some really shitty event happened or something, if I had this with me, I'm going to be okay. So this needs to be kind of upgraded and functional for everything that we need.
Yeah, it's all about the function at the end of the day. Yeah, it really is.
Now, one thing that I will say is you can see that both of our coats, we wear leather. We're talking about function. That's probably the least functional part of the gear that we choose to use.
Yeah, this is an important thing. We're not that fashion bothered as a lot of people are, and stitching a. There's probably people that would be horrified that we stitched a pocket into our jacket. But we're not that fussed. We're really not those kinds of people. Which brings us nicely on to jacket material. Now, there are a couple of different options. There's probably a bunch of different options, but in our small sort of meandering world, there's leather and there's textile. And textile is like the sort of canvasy stuff that's and those jackets, everybody that wears one says they are way better than leather.
Like,
this is
way
old-fashioned.
This is super, and there are a lot of drawbacks that come with choosing leather. So even though we kind of tout this whole like, oh, we don't care about fashion thing, I think this is one of our like hard fashion lines in the sand. And because we wear leather, we have to do a whole bunch of other stuff.
Yeah, so we have to maintain the leather. The other problem with leather is, man, if it does get wet, we put a lot of treatments on this to stop the water getting in. But if you're in the piss rain long enough, it will soak it up, and then it's a bastard to dry it out.
And it gets incredibly heavy.
Incredibly
heavy.
It will. Even right now, these are heavy.
Very
Mine
heavy.
Is phenomenally heavy.
Very, very heavy. So we treat these with dubbin at least twice a year. We also treat them with nick wax. Again, these were cheap, remember, so we're not looking for preserving the leather forever and making it, supple and gorgeous. We're talking about how can we make these as good as they can be for leather. So they do get treated at least twice a year for that, and I've actually found that the longevity, the longer you have it, and that happening year upon year, will improve the water resistance of it. So even year on year that gets better, not just by like doing a treatment and then next week it's better. The leather ages and it sort of...
I think it sort of sponges it up
and
retains some of that.
I do. I think it kind of it merges into its integrity a bit more.
Yeah, I guess it probably does. I've never considered that. I've always gone, oh, it's leaking like a bastard. I better put some dubbing on it.
Well, you're also
Much more reactive than
you're also fighting seams over time.
Yeah.
So I think the big drawbacks of leather are definitely it's not waterproof. Not even a little bit. It gets super heavy, and a lot of the textile stuff that's out there now is just like immediately
textile. So
waterproof.
The textile stuff, we don't wear textile. We don't, and to be honest, it is purely a look thing because everybody that's worn it said it's way better. They say it's warmer, it's easier to maintain, it's way lighter, it's wind resistant, it's water resistant, it's more comfortable, it's more functional. And it has so many, the modern textile, not talking about shit from the 80s or something, but modern textile is sort of just light years ahead these days. Even, I've had people buy shit from Aldi and Lidl and say that was an improvement over my leather jacket. That's pretty crazy. But that's how it is. And I've worn one. I used to have a Frank Thomas textile jacket, a black one, which was about as near to this shape as you could get. And again, it was better, and I couldn't stand how it looked.
Yeah.
I just want to look. I don't know. I can't bear looking like that.
I think for me, I started with this. Well, no, this wasn't my first coat. This was probably my third coat.
Did you have a textile for a bit?
I didn't. I had a leather women's leather coat that was marketed basically as an all-season touring leather jacket. It was the first thing I bought when, again, I was at that stage of, I don't know if I'm gonna ride forever.
Yeah, I
like,
wondered if it was really for you.
And it was freezing. I was freezing in it.
Yeah, it was a piece of shit.
It was a piece of shit. And then I upgraded to this, which I think I bought on eBay for 18 pounds, 20 pounds, something like that. And since then, I've not had need for another jacket. So I think that's also a bit of the reason why I haven't switched over, is that this hasn't shit its ass out to the point where, like, I've got to figure something else out.
I think if you'd have started, I think if we'd have gone the other way around, you started with textile. I think if either of us had started with textile and then switched to leather, we'd be like, what? Who the fuck wears this?
And we'd probably be getting the other one on board to textiles. Because we have so much, because these jackets are so absorbent, we have to travel with weather gear.
Yeah, we do, yeah.
Even for not torrential rain. If it's raining with any kind of meaning and is going to stay raining, we have to put our raincoats on.
Yeah,
and
we've got Gore-Tex over the
Gore-Tex
overcoats.
over the top. So you've got to get the super, super, super huge ones.
Yeah.
That go over the top of your leather jacket instead of just wearing a textile jacket that's probably going to just deal with it if it starts raining without any requests or anything. So that's definitely...
Yeah, we tend to... Do you still wear an ex-military Gore-Tex?
No, so you wear ex-military Gore-Tex.
Yeah, yeah.
I've found that I've switched over to rain gear that's marketed for extreme hikers.
Oh.
So on Amazon or on eBay or on like in sporting goods stores, you have kind of like a raincoat that you would wear to go for a walk. And then at least here in the UK, we have kind of extreme peak hiking. So someone who's going to go to Derbyshire and hike up the peaks or the fells in the Lake District or something where it's really wet, they need to be able to be wearing them for hours and hours. But they're thin.
Yeah, yeah.
They're not warm, they're not insulating, they're just really good, breathable rain gear. So both of my rain jacket that I wear, as well as the trouser overs that I have, are for like mega hikers who are going to go hike in the rain for 16 hours. And that's worked out really well for me, and it's a pretty good price. They're not really, really expensive.
No, which is a huge difference. I mean, that is another thing that people will tell you, that if it says bike gear, you can buy some like walking gloves and you'll buy the same walking glove marketed as a biking glove, and it's 50% extra.
100%.
Yeah,
100%.
every single time. Anything with biker on the tag is just tax. You know, it's like a stealth
biker
taxes on it's pretty crazy. So if you can find stuff outside that works for it and works the same, then it's well worth shopping.
It works, in my opinion, better than a lot of the old Army Gore-Tex, which I know is what you wear.
Yeah.
Which I feel like
some of it's knackered.
The Gore-Tex is always knackered when you get it now.
Yeah.
And
you've just resprayed mine. You've got some Gore-Tex conditioning spray, and that was the first time I come across one of those that worked.
It wasn't spray. What I used this first time that worked better is the Nick Wax Wash In.
Oh.
So you can get Nick Wax spray. And we've on our gear, on our jackets, on our rain gear, what I have always used is the Nick Wax rain repellent spray that's made for tents. So it's not made for clothes, or some of it is marketed for boots and shoes. I don't use any of that. I use the stuff that's marketed for tent rain repellent. For whatever reason, that stuff works a bit better.
Is that the milky coloured stuff?
It's very milky colored. You can get it in concentrate, and then it's cheaper that way if you're going to be doing it over and over again.
Yeah, you have like a 5 litre can or something.
You get a big bottle of it, and then you just mix your own in a spray bottle. But recently for our rain gear only, which is, again, pretty light. It's not thick like this. It's small stuff. It's a raincoat. You can get Wash In Nick wax, which you actually put your rain gear in the washing machine, and you put the stuff in the Nick wax stuff in this little ball, and you throw that in with it. So I did that, then put them out on the line and sprayed them with the tent stuff.
You're going for it. So,
And that worked pretty good.
yeah,
Pretty good.
Whatever you've done to my Gore-Tex, it's amazing now.
But that will wear off.
Yeah.
And with your ex-Army Gore-Tex, I feel like there's nothing underneath it.
No.
I just think that Gore-Tex is
Yeah, it's knackered already.
dead
I've had
already.
it where it's been sold as like a grade A military surplus, which is supposedly not used at all. And I've put it on and gone, not necessarily biking. I went on holiday somewhere, it was tipping it down all the time. And I took it off. My shoulders, which is
just
what
absorbs
goes,
it,
were
yeah.
just piss wet through. It was
Yeah.
dreadful.
Yeah.
Absolute crap.
So I don't like to use that anymore.
No.
I've moved on a bit from that. But if we just got some textile jackets, we probably wouldn't have to do that mess at all.
And didn't care about vanity or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think they're getting better. I think they're getting more. And since the Ewan McGregor thing, I think that's another cool topic, actually, talking about Ewan and Charlie for another time. But they've sort of attracted a whole new level, a whole different type of biker to biking. Whether you like them or not, they've really been a boon to the amount of people on two wheels. And their stuff is all textile. So people are looking at them.
Yeah, but they
and
also
going,
do
"Let's get
waxed
that stuff."
cotton because hipster.
Do they?
Yeah.
Even them tours that they do.
Yeah, so I think
shit.
the latest
The
jacket
Harley one. Oh, right.
they released, well, I don't know, at the bike shed in London.
Yeah, I
They
can't
did a recent
comment on
release.
the wax stuff. I've
Yeah.
never worn wax cotton. I don't know if it's good or bad or what. I'd assume it takes quite a bit of maintenance, but I haven't a clue. I'm not going to comment. So
It is heavy. I've held them, and I think the wax cotton feels similar because it's heavier than a textile coat.
Right.
But
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
I think if I was going pure function, I'd just go textile. A lot of the older guys and the big mileage guys, they go textile. And I think if we were doing like a round the world trip or something,
we'd
I
have to.
would have to.
We'd have to. But for
yeah,
now,
for now.
this is still working out. We're
Vanity's
holding
still
on
winning.
to the identity of the biker for as long as possible.
Yeah.
And having a leather jacket just is one of those.
Yeah, it totally is. It totally is. And for me, it's been a lot easier. It's always been a lot easier to find leather jackets that fit and work for what they're supposed to do than it has for you.
Yeah.
I mean, this is something that's really important and a big difference at the moment, at this point in time. Hopefully this will change.
Yeah.
But right now where we are, it's been a nightmare for Leigh to find ladies' leather jackets, hence why she's wearing a man's leather jacket for pure function and something that works really well. She's had to go that way. I think it comes down to money, functionality, and stuff that's being sold as shit.
Yeah, I mean, so this jacket, which I love, it works really well for me. I've gotten really used to it. The one big downside for me is I absolutely look like a guy riding around in this coat. So if you just saw me on my bike riding past you,
Yeah, you'd think, dude.
it's a dude shape. It's a nice big box, and I've always wanted something that's a little bit more cut, a little bit more fitted, so that it
More of an
looks
hourglass
more
type.
like a feminine girl shape. And I have struggled to find that in conjunction with all of the functionality things that we were talking about when it comes to these coats. The warmth, the different zippers, the sleeve zips, the high collar, the thickness, length, all of the stuff that makes this jacket great has been really hard for me to find in a female cut. About this time last year, I think it was Christmas time last year, I decided I was going to try and buy that for myself
you
as
really
a present
went for it as a Christmas present.
So I bought and tried on and had them delivered because that was the other thing. So I wanted to go and try on a bunch of jackets.
So we went to J&S and had a day. Well, we had a morning
Yeah,
at
but
J&S.
I couldn't find all of the ladies' gear is so spread out that I couldn't find a store that carried my size particularly. That's the other thing to talk about. I'm a pretty big girl, so I'm not a slim size.
Yeah, you're not 5'2" and
Nope.
stick-like.
Nope. So finding a store that had my size in multiple women's jackets wasn't going to happen. It was impossible.
I mean, it's kind of like when you go looking for these things, I'd never noticed. I'd never really been shopping for, obviously, with anybody to look for ladies' clothes, but I suddenly realised that it's like the opposite of department store or like Primark or somewhere like that, a clothing outlet, where you get 3 floors of women's clothes and some shitty men's section at the back, which is total token effort. Which of these 3 T-shirts do you want to choose from? And it was like the exact reverse of that in the biker world, where we go to these big sort of warehouse bike places, and you realise that it's all men's, and it caters for every shape of man that's ever been made.
Yeah.
And the women's stuff is just sort of, if you're not that shape woman or that height, then, or if you're not just after a fashion jacket, then don't bother.
Yeah, so there were really 2 issues that I came across. Was one, sizing for being a bigger person. I think in the UK I wear a size 12 or size 14, something like that.
Which isn't that big.
Which isn't that big, but it's not a size 8 or a size 6, which is the kind of model size. And also no bad vibes to anyone who is that size. I'm just talking about my personal experience, and I couldn't get my hands on that. So I think it's obviously stocked in smaller sizes for a reason, because they must be able to sell them.
Yeah, good for those people.
And
You're really lucky if you're that size, and that's great for you.
So no bad intentions at all. Just on my experience, I couldn't find.
This is purely your struggle.
My struggle, in my area.
Like you.
I couldn't find the sizes. I contacted some other stores, even being willing to travel, and they would have had to get and order a lot of things in. Obviously, the stores don't want to like order 8 jackets when I might not even buy one. They're telling me, we'll order you the jacket you know you want, absolutely no problem.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to order this wide selection of random jackets in like kind of 2 sizes each for you to come in and try on, and then maybe not even buy. So the sizing was an issue. And then the second thing that was an issue, and is still an issue, and I haven't solved this issue, is functionality and things not being sort of fashion, what we would call fashion jackets or fashion gear, meaning that most of the time a leather jacket that's marketed towards females that I've found is thin, really, doesn't have that versatility, doesn't have the multiple zippers.
Half of them don't even have armour in them.
Half of them don't have armour. If they do have armour in them, they're a token effort. And are short, which is one of the big things we talked about earlier, because you look awesome walking around.
Yeah, it's great for going to a bar.
You look great. You're
fantastic.
You want to show off your butt. You want to see your butt and not have this big flappy tail of a jacket hanging down. But that doesn't work out so well with riding. Now, there are some exceptions I should mention. I know that I think Lady Biker or Moto Girl do a couple of jackets that are specifically designed to tackle some of these issues. They ended up not really working for me personally, but this isn't a blanket statement to say there's nothing out there.
No, it is out there to be found, and yeah, you can find it if you look hard enough.
It's just much more difficult.
Yeah.
So what I ended up doing is picking out some of the ones that I liked the best and got good reviews, and were all in the same kind of price point, and ordered them and tried them on.
Yeah, I remember we were sitting there and like we heard the door go because we've got a porch, and we heard the porch door go and opened it, and there's just I didn't realise this was happening, and half the time I don't know what's happening when it comes to you ordering stuff. I open the door and there's surprise things there. And there was just a stack of these huge, great big boxes, each one full of different jackets.
And I really wanted a brown jacket, so I bought all these different brown jackets, all these different makes and models and sizes. And I did end up...
Was that to go with your brown seat?
I don't have a brown seat.
You want one?
I don't want a brown seat. Anyway, I think brown is slightly more feminine, which is why I wanted it.
Oh, is
Thank you
that
very
it?
much.
Nothing hipster about it. is there?
This jacket is totally hipster as well.
Yeah.
It's super hipster. So what I ended up getting, what I felt was the best compromise was my Triumph coat. So I did end up buying a female cut coat, and you can kind of see it will be difficult, but there are inserts here
Does it tell you what
in the
model
size.
it is? I'm sure somebody
This
likes to know
is
the model. Does it even say?
no, this is a Triumph maybe D30 extra large. Again, doesn't
No, not
tell
really
you. I
helpful.
could actually, I'll link it in the description because I can find this.
Yeah,
this
somebody's
coat
going to
again.
want to know what it is.
So I ended up buying this coat. I think this coat looks really cool. I loved the color of it. The shape of it is awesome. But I made a lot of, and you can see it's gotten some wear, not a lot of wear. I end up not picking up this coat
Yeah.
a lot of the time, and I would never wear this coat on tour. So if we were going to a bike meet that was local,
Yeah, and you want to look nice.
and I want to look
you wanna-
nice,
yeah,
totally an option. But for anything else, not really.
Why not? Why would you not choose this on tour? I mean, the modification that you had done to this is interesting
So,
to make it make it
so to
more
try to
touring.
make it closer, and you can even, I mean, surely you can even see in the camera how much lighter this
It's
coat
super
is.
thin.
It's thin. The leather's really, really good quality, but it's a thin coat. It did come with a liner. However, that liner did not extend into the arms. So you're only getting a liner on
Yeah, it's like a
your
body warmer.
body
type
warmer.
thing. Yeah.
And this was just way too thin to be reasonably comfortable. I would have had to wear so many base layers.
Could you get a base layer on under it? Were you struggling to get the sleeves into it? Or was it just that you needed more on top of that as well?
What do you mean?
So you could put, like most jackets, you can put a hoodie, they'll fit a hoodie and a couple of layers to cover the sleeves.
Yeah, it will, but the problem I was having is I
that
had to
still
wear
lacking?
so much base layer under this coat that then when we got off the motorcycle to do anything, I was roasting.
Yeah.
Because I was
yeah.
basically wearing all of my warmth in clothes, not in a coat. I was wearing all of my warmth in thermals and clothes and hoodies, and then putting this really light shell on that I couldn't take off and throw over my shoulder or walk around with, and I was roasting, or I was not wearing all of those layers, putting on this coat, and then when I was riding, I was freezing.
Yeah.
So I really
yeah.
needed the coat to do more work than it was doing, which is why my big compromise, and again, this is kind of the modification thing, is I went to a guy who is in London. He does a lot of custom bike stuff. He makes seats, he makes all sorts of things, and he makes jackets. And what he ended up doing for me is making me a custom inner. So this is not pretty because I didn't want to pay money for it to be gorgeous. He used whatever thermal he had
They could make some gorgeous
laying
stuff.
around. I think this is actually inside out at the moment. I think that the red is the, yeah, so you can see the seam works really, really nice. He used whatever he had laying around, and I told him that was great because this is going to go on the inside, and I don't care. He makes some really beautiful stuff. So I sent him this coat, and then he created this removable liner. So it can still come out, but it goes all the way into the sleeve, and it has some buttons here that clip into the sleeve itself. And that has definitely improved the wearability of this coat, because in England, let me tell you, it never really gets hot enough. Maybe once or twice a year to wear a t-shirt under your jacket, and that's it.
Yeah.
Especially when you're actually moving, when you're actually riding, I kind of always want some.
It's very rare that you overheat for having too thick of a jacket on. It's
In the
just so
UK,
rare.
it just hasn't happened to me.
Yeah.
And that definitely upscales this coat. It still does not have, this coat has one inner pocket, one small inner pocket, two outer pockets on the sides. What is great about this is it is long. It is really nice and long. So I don't have that like riding up problem that I
think
had.
Another thing to do you reckon this is part of it? I think a lot of the women's jackets is assuming that you're going to be pillion on the back of somebody else for 10 minutes, and that a pillion normally sits more upright. You're not reaching handlebars or anything like that.
Well, look, if I was going somewhere for 10 minutes, doesn't matter what coat I'm wearing. If it rides up, if it doesn't, whatever. If we're going for a little bit of a ride, you can put up with a lot.
Yeah.
And maybe that's part of the assumption. I don't know. I think that is changing. It may also be that a lot of the gear maybe is marketed like in California. If you lived in California, this coat would probably be pretty good. It's a really good leather quality, so you're not gonna, it's not gonna fall apart on the road or anything if you get road rash. If you're in that type of a climate, southern Florida in America, like
totally
you're
fine,
pretty golden. So maybe that's
yeah.
part of what it is. I think there's a lot of female riders in that part of the world. With the Babes Ride Out crew and stuff like that.
Are you seeing Are you seeing that sort of stuff expand? That market expand for women that want decent clothing, or is it still a struggle?
But the market in general for women's clothing.
Yeah.
I think the market is expanding. Yeah, there's much more out there, but in my recent experience, that doesn't mean that the stuff that you see online that looks really cool is actually going to work for what you need.
I remember you going onto a bunch of forums and asking the other lady riders,
So many.
the actual lady riders that spend decent amounts of time in the saddle like we do. I'll say that differently actually. The people that ride like you do is more important. And asking all those ladies, you know, what do you wear and what do you get? And you were really still struggling.
Honestly, most of them said textiles.
Yeah.
And again, I think that's part of the discussion that both of us are owning up to the fact that if I just probably got a textile jacket, maybe I wouldn't be having these friggin' problems. But that's not what I was in the market for. And there is a lot of females leather jackets. When you go and Google it and look up ladies leather motorcycle jacket, there's loads of them.
Yeah.
It's just, even coming from brands, even coming from Frank Thomas and these other brands, when you get it in your hand, it is not the same as the men's equivalent.
Like they farm it out.
And even some of the jacket names are the same. You know, they name the jacket model, and you'll get the guy's model and the girl's model, and you just hold it, and it feels completely different. They're not the same jacket, just recut.
Wow, that's huge.
So that's definitely been a massive struggle, and I still find when we are getting, what really tells me if my gear works well or not is the minute when you're getting ready to go on your bike, what are you reaching for?
Yeah, that's what we find that so many times. That I mean, I've bought a ton of different bike gear and a ton of different things that are aimed at different situations. And this has just come out. Have you tried it? Have you brought this latest gadget and stuff? And you find that is what it comes down to for us. You know, buy whatever stuff there is, try a thing out. You know, read reviews and everything else. Put it on the rack with all your other bike stuff. And then watch what ends up on the bike. You will always automatically pick up the thing that worked. And it's surprising how much stuff ends up in the bin, or ends up back on eBay rather, or down the charity shop.
Or ends up being worn 2 or 3 times a year.
Yeah, or to a bike meet that's 5 miles away. You know, like your sparkly helmet.
Yeah, and this jacket kind of right now is falling into that same.
Yeah, and other people might be really different. You might get a diesel thick jacket and go, the hell am I wearing that for? I do like fucking 20 miles an hour to the local shop and back, and that's it. Why do I need this great thick heavy thing?
Right.
But it's really going to come down to who you are and what you're wearing it for.
Yeah.
Other than sort of, I mean, other than the safety angle, that some of this stuff just seems so sketchy.
Oh, that I should mention, actually. Some of it, be careful if you're out there looking at these jackets, because some of it I didn't like because it didn't fit me right, or it wasn't long enough, or it wasn't whatever. And then some of it I got on and I was like, this is for a club.
Yeah.
Like, this is
You mean like
for
a
an
dancing,
outfit.
yeah,
Yeah,
going
like
out
this
to the
is
party.
for a party. Like, there's no way I would trust my skin down the road.
No.
It would just disintegrate.
The maddest thing, that was one thing that I noticed, that on eBay, the algorithm can't tell the difference. If you put in biker jacket, put in those words into eBay and look at what comes up first. I don't know if it's still the same, I haven't looked for a while, but that's in my head, that's going to redirect me to the category, because that's what eBay will do. You type in car, it redirects you to the car category. But when you do it with biker jacket, it redirects you to the clothing category, and you see stuff that's like from Next,
Yeah.
and
Oh,
Top
yeah.
Man, and Top Shop, and what are some of the other TK Maxx, and it's not biker jacket, it's biker style.
Yeah.
So it's a leather or leather look or pleather
Yeah.
jacket that has no business, has nothing to do with actually riding motorcycles.
Yeah.
It's just a look.
But I bought mine all from motorcycle retailers.
Yes,
Not from
yeah,
Next,
yeah.
not from Topshop or Primark or anything. I only bought approved gear that had the armor in it, the safety ratings, and all of that kind of stuff, and still felt like once I had that stuff in my hand that it was so flimsy.
Yeah.
It was so thin and just
That must be difficult if you're because you're a lady
so
rider.
expensive.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
like
yeah.
so expensive.
Do you think there's like the what they call
Pink tax.
Pink tax.
I totally think there's pink tax on female
What is
gear.
pink tax?
Pink tax is basically, you see it a lot in supermarkets when it comes to things like razors. You know, a men's razor to shave your face
This is the worst. I
is
hate seeing
£3,
it.
and the ladies' razor, which is exactly the same actual piece of equipment, but it's pink, is, you know, £11. And I think that a lot of gear is like that. I think that
Yeah.
the ladies' gear just costs, it's just up, it's just priced up. It's more expensive
Yeah, it
for
is.
a lesser quality product.
Yeah. I mean, I can understand a percentage. I can understand there being a percentage different if it's considered that the demand is lower and it's more niche and it costs there's more cost involved in making it. But when you look at the percentage difference that actually is on there on the shelf, it's ridiculous. It's like, that is not what's going on here. This is...
I think that these
Mugging
codes
you
probably
off.
take a bit more development. You know, I think tailoring clothes for women is harder. I think that there are more style items. I mean, you can see on this coat, it has a really cool, like, patchwork sort of quilted detailing on the shoulder, which I really like. And maybe that adds to the price, and I'm happy to pay a price for those types of things. I'm happy to pay extra money for that.
And you had to pay for the name in
Right.
this one. I mean, if you could have found this from a no-name brand...
Oh, I would have bought it in a second.
You'd have been totally happy, but you had to pay the extra because it was Triumph.
And when we talked about, oh, we just go on eBay and buy these old Frank Thomas jackets for £8 or whatever.
Yeah.
That's not possible.
No, that's not happening with this. You're not going to get that.
You're not going
right
to get
now.
that. Not right now.
No.
I think that's changing, and like I said, we're seeing, especially in the UK, and I bet other places, there are clothing companies that are just female rider clothing companies that are coming up.
Yeah.
And I've seen it over the last 5 years, they're gaining more traction. They're having more variety in the things that they have. Jackets, Kevlar jeans, overalls, all different kinds of things. It's still relatively limited in my experience. They have maybe 1-2 styles of jacket, maybe in 2 or 3 colors. And I hope that continues to get better to the point where there's a lot more selection and choice.
I think that the internet's been hugely helpful with the smaller companies that are providing these products it was always a problem for them to find their audience.
Yeah.
But with the internet, it's getting easier and easier and easier for them to find their customers and to be successful.
And I think female riding is on the rise. I do. I think it's a...
Yeah, I remember women saying, you know, when I was dating ladies in my 20s or whatever, the ones that I knew wouldn't want to be on a bike, riding a bike themselves, because that was really manly. And it was associated in a negative context that you don't want to be doing blokey things. But I think that's gone, and it's largely died out, and you can totally be an independent woman on your own motorbike, and that's totally fine, and I think that's awesome.
I think we're getting in that direction. I think we are going, in my experience, through a bit of a phase where it's still very trendy and fashionable to ride a motorcycle as a girl.
Yeah.
So there's kind of this wave of female empowerment, and doing things like riding motorcycles can give you that experience a little bit, which is not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing at all. But when it comes to a real hobby or a real passion like motorcycling, there's doing it for the weekend to hang out with your friends or whatever, and then there's like touring, and this is definitely more on that, like a little bit more surface, more hobby level, which is again totally fine, totally cool, but a lot of the gear is sort of modeled at that level. Yeah. Again, I could wear this for 20 minutes riding to a show, no problem.
Yeah, you want to look cute, you go into a show, meet a bunch of people, and that's what I think a lot of people are finding. I think that's when you see some folks, that's exactly what they want to do.
Yeah,
and they
cool.
don't want to do anything else. They don't want to go on tour in the pissing rain in Belgium. They want to go out on a summer's evening when the weather's nice and go to a bike meet and look cute and go home. Yeah. And that's about it. And I always struggle with people being negative about other people being on a bike. I don't care why you're on that bike. I don't care if you're following Ewan McGregor. I don't care if you're just going to a bike club on a sunny afternoon, a bike meet on a sunny afternoon. I'm really happy to see more bums on bikes.
Sure.
I just want to see more people taking this up. And this is something definitely for another day, is the fact that we go into more and more bike meets and stuff, and we're all getting old. And we look around and it's like, who's picking this up when we're done with it? Yeah. There's no new blood coming in. And I think anything at all, even if it's fucking hipsters riding horrible bikes that are terribly made, maybe one or two of them will stick around and get into biking as an absolute passion. Because you can get into biking for any kind of reason at all and end up staying around and taking it to whole different levels and different places and discovering whole new aspects of life. And you just got into it because you wanted to go along to a bike meet on a Wednesday. Yeah. I mean, I don't care. Just get into it. Yeah. Don't bash people for getting into it, because soon there won't be anybody. If you're one of those people that everybody has to do it the same way as you, or they're not a proper biker, you're killing us off. Yeah. That attitude is killing us off.
Yeah. I think that's why I feel passionate about getting girls proper gear, is that for me, if I had been put into this coat when I first started riding and thought this is what I had to deal with to be on a motorcycle, I wouldn't have wanted to ride as much as I do. No. I'm cold, this isn't comfortable, like, why do people want to do this? And this sucks. So I totally, I hope I don't come off as saying like that girls have to ride a certain way or anyone has to like a certain thing that I like. No, it's more that this just doesn't function at a high level for what I need. Yeah, and it's difficult to find that for me in ladies' gear. And that's leather. It's difficult for me to find gear that functions at the level that I am looking for. Yeah, yeah. But there's more and more coming out all the time, and maybe that will change. Yeah. I think it is also really important that that for me, and I see this more and more in the meets and the stuff and the bikers that we meet, to retain my female identity, which I think is really important to some girls as well. So I'm hoping that we see more gear come out like that. I don't want to look like a guy. I don't really care about looking cute. I don't really care about impressing anyone. But I don't want to be just another dude on a bike. I want to be me. So finding gear that represents me and I feel confident and comfortable in is a really important thing. So I hope it gets a bit better, I guess.
Yeah, I've definitely heard women talk about how off-putting it was for them personally to not want to look like a dude. You know, it put them off getting on a bike because they were, in their mind they were going to have to dress like a man, and it wasn't what they were wanting to do, and that was so off-putting. And
a lot of that is true. I mean, I think all of my bike gear is men's gear.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point actually, when you're talking about the difference between the quality of, you know, the thin cheapy leather that you get on some of the other stuff and the difference between these things. I think if you're a brand new lady biker who hasn't experienced anything at all, we've all been there. We've all started somewhere.
Totally.
It would be a great idea to go into a big bike shop and go and have a look and a feel of the ladies' stuff, and go and have a look and a feel of the men's stuff. Go and have feel the thickness of the quality and the stitching. Look at the padding. Look at, the armour and where the placement is and stuff like that, and feel the difference. Get to know the different levels. Because if you just go in, pick something up and buy it, you might be getting something that's going to be a detriment to your initial riding experience.
Totally.
In your piss-thin, shitty coat.
That's cost you £300.
Yeah,
and that I think is something that also is intimidating when it looks like you, in order to get into riding, you have to go spend $6,000 on gear. If you're a beginner and you don't have maybe someone else that you know who's helping you out or whatever, like, this isn't your only option. This is £20 option is what I love. This couple £100 option is the thing that I wear occasionally when it actually kind of works out that day because of the weather and the trip. So it doesn't have to be a huge expense to get into biking, and you can be super, super comfortable without spending all of that money. You, unfortunately, right now, in order to choose this option, you do have to, in my experience, give up the fashion side of it. Give up potentially some of your comfort. But if you can handle that, and you can find other ways to express yourself, and find other places where you can make this stuff your own, put stickers on your helmets, paint your bike purple, some of the things that I've done that makes me able to be me in other places, that's really offset the benefits that I get from this type of gear.
Yeah, it is one of those things that everything's got a price, hasn't it? And you've always got to sacrifice something or other for whatever you're doing in life.
Yeah. I think that's also an interesting segue into this topic, which is cutoffs.
Yeah, cutoffs or vests, as they're known.
I do not wear a cutoff.
No, you...
Basically 100% because of vanity.
Yeah.
Because I don't like the way that it looks on my shape. I think that cutoff makes me look a bit boxy, and I don't really like it. So I've had one of my favorite patches stitched on directly onto, again, this more fashion jacket, the jacket that I wear that's a little bit more feminine, more girly for me when the time works. But when I ride with my tour jacket, I don't have a cutoff at all.
Yeah, so this is my cutoff, which I wear all of the time whenever I'm biking, and I often wear it to social events as well. Now this is a really expansive topic. So that's the back with a bunch of patches that I've picked up along the way, and they're creeping onto the front because I've run out of space pretty much with these. And this is how do you even start with vests? Where do you even begin? Because there are different types of vests. And I've seen like other guys on other YouTube channels just sort of talk about vests as in being purely an MC thing, which is MC stands for Motorcycle Club. And that's another expansion. We were talking at the start about how you can ramble from one thing to another and just end up all over the place.
I think one thing that would be a really cool video, and let us know if you agree, is Nate telling some of the stories behind these patches. So
Yes.
I think we should talk about your cutoff in general, but if anyone wants to hear about it, every single one of these patches has a story, and some of them are pretty good.
Yeah, some of them. Some of them I was drunk and bought a patch. I don't know where that came from. Other ones slightly more meaningful. But yeah, this is mine. I can't. Obviously, I have to be careful because I don't want to talk about other people's perspectives and things like that, and other people's reasons for wearing these things. I only really want to talk about my own, and I can talk on a surface level about other stuff. But these things should probably be a video on their own. To talk more expansively if people want to hear that. But this is mine, and I can talk about this one a little bit. So I got this when I first started riding bikes. I started picking up patches. And this is very much a thing that's in the bike scene. You know, you go to a bike rally and you can get a patch to stick on your jacket. And again, this is my personal reason for starting this, was that the first thing I did was I got all excited. I bought some bike patches from the old Rat Bike Zone website back in the day. And they came in the mail, and I stitched them all over the front of my leather jacket, straight onto the jacket. And it looked pretty great. I was like, why do people bother with vests? That's the dumbest thing ever. I don't know why they're doing that. Just stitch them on your jacket, then you don't have to do two things. And then two things suddenly became apparent. One, I went out in rain, and everywhere there was a patch, the water just pissed through.
We have to also remember that when Nate says he stitched them on, that means that he took a giant needle
and
sat in his chair and smashed the holy living shit out of it.
Yeah, with a pair of pliers and a leather needle.
Yeah.
I like mashed it through.
Yeah, right.
So you end up with perforations wherever they are, and the rain just sort of wicks straight through and into your shirt and your t-shirt and everything else. So that was the first thing I noticed. The other important thing is I get through leather jackets. This is probably in 15 years. I think I've gone through 5.
Yeah.
And they just wear out, and they're really cheap. Like we've said, you go on eBay, you buy another very, very lightly used leather jacket for 25 quid off somebody, and off you go again. You just throw the other one out. I can get a new zip put on for 80 quid, or I can throw it away and get another jacket. So if your patches were all stuck to the jacket, they're going with it, or you're cutting them off every time and re-sewing it.
Which is my big reason for not putting patches on my jacket, is that I know someday that jacket will get retired.
Yeah,
and
you got all that to do again.
Got all that to do again.
So I started stitching them on this, and I got loads and loads and loads. And
this is your original cutoff. This is literally the cutoff that you bought.
That I started riding with. I bought this cutoff. I went to, back then there was no eBay, or not to any meaningful degree, so I went to what was a local second-hand leathers shop in one of the little mini mall type things in Nottingham. And went through them, found one that fitted over the top of my leather jacket and bought it for a tenner. And this is it, and it's been with me since absolutely forever. Now,
it's more patch than leather at this point.
Yeah, it is more patches than leather at this point. The other one you get is denim. A lot of the old school guys wore denim. To be honest, I just preferred the look of the leather. And I thought, looking ahead, I figured out it's probably more durable, and I don't have to repair it so often if I go with leather. Now, my cut-off looks quite a lot different to what you may know of. It kind of depends who's watching this as well. Some people might go, yeah, that looks totally normal. And other people will be like, what the hell is this? Because when people talk about patches on the back of bike jackets and vests and things, they automatically think motorcycle club, I think.
Or even very orderly, like Rally 2001, Rally 2002, Rally 2003 in the nice, neat kind of format.
Yeah, and this style, which is just everything is everywhere. When I first got this cut off, I did start putting them on because everybody else that I'd seen in the UK put them on in nice, neat rows. And part of biking for me is, I mean, I'm a rat biker exclusively. I don't ride polished anything, and part of that, rat biking is like, if you think about like the punk scene of the motorcycle world, is about as close as I can get. And it was kind of, I wasn't buying into any of that stuff. It didn't fit right with me. Anything that's neat and tidy and perfect, I don't want any of that. That's not who I am. My bike doesn't look like that. My bike's a living, breathing thing full of dents and dirt, and it's earned all of it. And I wanted my cut-off to be the same. And then I went over to Germany, and there were a bunch of guys there that had tons of patches, and they wore them like this. They were rat bikers as well. And this was their style, just to throw them on wherever. And it grows much more sort of organically. There's no order to any of it. Just where does it look cool today? Stick it on.
Yeah.
And that's how it's ended up looking this way. And now we've moved, it was just on the back, and I've accumulated that many that I'm having to move them onto the front now, and it'll end up filled up as well. But every single one of these, every single one of those patches has been earned, with the exception of like 2, has been earned motorcycling. So there's one from Germany where I rode to, there's one from the Netherlands I rode to. There are various different things, places I've been, parties I've been to, events I've seen, and some gifts from other motorcycling friends as well. They know I wear this vest, they perhaps don't wear one themselves, and they've given me things that they'd like. I've got one here that supports Sea Shepherd, because I've got a friend who was active in Sea Shepherd for a long time, and he really wanted me to have a patch of his. And there's a few others that are like that on there.
I think it's also cool to mention, since we're talking more about gear and less necessarily about all of the stories with this one, is that the other thing that you've done is extended this.
Yes, yeah.
Because you were a bit smaller.
Yeah, I was 9 stone wet when I started, and now I'm not so much 9 stone.
That's the other cool thing about a vest is, even, you know, we're talking about jackets wear out. Humans change size.
Yes.
So that's another cool thing about this, is that he's been able to add these leather extenders. I know some guys also will cut down the side and add in like lace
to
expanders. So you can have this for your body changing as much as your gear wearing out. But this is a way to deal with that. I love this thing because you can feel on the inside all of the stitches. It like sits up on its own quite a lot because it's just patches and not really
so many layers upon layers
leather anymore.
Yeah, and I particularly love it. The other thing I love about this is it's totally unique. Every time this is an extension of me. And this is some people have tattoos wherever they go, and that's sort of their history around their body and everything. I don't have a single one, but I have this. And whenever I look at this, it reminds me of the places I've been, the wonderful people I've met when I was there, and the stories that went with some of those amazing events and times in my life. And it's utterly irreplaceable.
Yeah.
You know, it is a complete and total one-off. And it is absolutely my style, and everything on there is my life. So that is probably my most treasured possession that I've got, because it's so unique, and it is just me.
Yeah. For anyone watching this, any of the girls out there who don't have cutoffs, I'll really be interested if anyone does anything similar to this. I've seen some people do bags or
seen ladies with trousers. They will stitch them to their over trousers, their riding trousers.
Yeah. I've always been curious on other ways to do it. I've not really found a way for me that, obviously we tour to some of the same places, so have some of the same opportunities to pick up patches, and I've never found a way that I really...
No, I think you tried sticking some to your bike, and you thought about the panniers, but the bikes, I mean, you get stickers for bikes, you know. So I've got a flag here, and one there from crayons or whatever it is, they're available in stickers. If you're going to put one on your bike, put a sticker on.
Yeah.
You totally wouldn't put a patch on. But yeah, I'd like to know what the other ladies do.
Yeah, for sure.
I think I've seen them on the trails I'm thinking of were like chaps that somebody had, because they just put them on, rode the bike, then took them off. And they were covered in patches and things. That looked kind of cool. But yeah, there aren't that many women that wear vests. You do see some, but they're mostly in clubs that I've seen.
I think so.
And they have to have like the club emblem or whatever that's on there.
Yeah.
Which we'll talk about another day, because I mean, this is just, we're only touching on this. And if you've got any questions about that, post them in the comments, because there's so much you can talk about with this. But we'll do another one with vests and patches and back patches and club patches, because that's huge and people can't necessarily. But I get people that come up to me, they see me wearing this, and if you're a biker and you're into the bike scene in the UK, this will seem pretty funny, but they'll look at me wearing this, walking through the bike meet, and go, "Oh, what club are you in?" It's like,
it's not a back patch vest.
Not in a club.
Yeah.
That's a little bit different, and there's a different style that goes with that. It's not a dirty old vest covered in shit.
That's the club that you
yes, I'm absolutely a paid-up member of that club.
Yes, 100%.
The Scruffy Biker Club.
Yeah.
So I think is that covered?
I mean, I think that's pretty comprehensive on coats themselves. We could talk about loads of other gear. I have a lot of thoughts about boots as well as jackets, another really important tool in our clothing arsenal. But as far as coats goes, I think that was a good long chat about motorcycle jackets, at least our experience with
bored them all senseless by now, I think.
I think so.
Did anybody hang in till
If you're at this point in the video, congratulations. Well done.
You made it.
Well done.
High five. Yeah, I think we'll call it a job then, shall we?
Yeah. Cool.
All right, bye-bye.
See you every time.
Bye.
Bye.